Well, friends, we're here to discuss Stargate today, and by we, I mean both of us. You ready for this, Teal'c? Indeed. Anyways, I'm going to put him over here. You know how chatty he gets, so I don't want him to take up the entire stream, but basically we're going to talk about the likelihood of Stargate characters coming back and reprising their roles in this new iteration of Stargate. Of course, there's a couple caveats here. We don't really know what the show is going to be. It's not a reboot. It is still using the old canon, but it's also supposed to be a fresh jumping on point, so I don't anticipate most of the returning or lingering plot threads will be brought up, at least in earnest, early on. If this thing goes multiple seasons, gets spin-offs, obviously I feel like the potential to tie up a lot of loose ends and bring back a lot of the old players is going to increase. This is going to be my speculation, my personal thoughts, as well as my biases, but basically almost certain, highly possible, and maybe unlikely and no chance are what I'm going to play with here, and I'm going to go ahead and reutilize this tier, which was actually for the ranking of Stargate characters. I've added a couple on here because they didn't go into the universe end of things, and I think there might be a potential for some of those people to come back. But without further ado, let's kick things off with Kalia from Atlantis with an absolute no chance. Not only does he really not fit the story because of things that have happened in Stargate, also some things I've seen online with this actor in the past, actually just yesterday, might not be the type of person they'd want to bring back in the current climate. So I'm going to say no chance for him. Then we have somebody here, Adria, Udria, however you want to pronounce her name, because I just said it wrong. I would say probably not for her. However, the actress Marina Baccarin has gotten significantly more prominent since the show went off the air, and her ties to other characters within the franchise might lead her to coming back, as well as her status with the Ori, so potentially she may come back. Then we have Reynolds, who I think is not no chance, but I think it's extremely unlikely depending on what they do with the show. I don't think a lot of these side players, the third tier cast members who were there for a lot of the work but were never really a main component of the show, unless they're working in the vicinity of where they're filming this new show, I don't really anticipate a lot of them coming back. Then we have Anubis. I'm gonna say maybe, or unlike, I'm just going to say, out of all of the Goa'uld recurring threats that we could have, he's probably the most likely to make any sort of reappearance because of just the nature of his being, regardless of anything that's come before or how he ended up or whichever version of him they decide to bring back, because there's not just this version, there's the other people he's inhabited, there's the ethereal realm version and the suit and the diner and all that. Something along those lines, I feel like, could be brought back if they want to tug on those threads some more. I'm going to say for Apophis, very unlikely. The only reason I feel like he's not an out-and-out no, and the same thing for some of these characters, is A, they brought him back so many times in the original series, and he was so intricately blended into the tapestry they were telling, and they have this sort of ongoing thread of alternate reality versions of Stargate, so if they end up going in there, I could potentially see a reappearance of Apophis in some form, but he's also pretty played out. So again, that would probably be more like a glorified cameo or stock footage potentially if they're going to bring that in, but I don't think he'll be making a return to the show in any sort of meaningful way. Then we have Bosch. I think he's very, very unlikely. The only reason I don't say no is because, again, the actor, pretty well-known person in certain circles. He never really had a tie-up in his story. He wasn't necessarily linked to things so dramatically to no longer make sense. And he is an avenue for further exploration as to what happened to his race of people after everything that happened in Stargate, because he's got the natural immunity. They were slaves working for a Goa'uld, so maybe he could fit into some sort of new alliance or something. Now we have Ball, and I'm going to break something I already said a few minutes ago. Ball, I'm going to say no chance, unless it is in stock footage or reference or in some sort of new body. This one, and the reason this is going to come up several times on this list, the actor is sadly no longer with us, so he himself could not reprise the role outside of some other convoluted way to get him in. And they really sort of tied up his story in Continuum anyways, so it would just feel like they were pushing it to bring him back. But because of his links to some things that have happened, I do feel like he would at least be referenced. Then we have Bates, I believe is his name here. I want to say he's pretty much the same as Reynolds. I don't really foresee him coming back at all, but if they do bring back a lot of the side players in some sort of circumstance, he could potentially return, but I think it's on the lowest end of unlikely. Who do we have next? We have Beckett. I'm going to say if we get any sort of continuation with Atlantis or checking in with Atlantis, he's going to be one of the people that we probably see, not to mention if they just have any sort of medical issues going on in this new series. He would probably be one of the people they could bring in as a specialist or a reference to. Obviously, there are a couple different versions of Beckett out there, the original or the clone or whatever, so a version of Paul McGillian, I suppose you could say. Then we have Braytac. I'm going to say he's highly possible. Regardless of what they want to do with the story here, I feel like there has to be some sort of tie to the Jaffa and the Goa'uld, because that's literally the bread and butter of this iteration of the series from SG-1 going forth. I feel like if they're going to have any sort of mentions to that whatsoever, he would be second out of the Jaffa characters to make a comeback that wasn't on the main cast. So I think he's pretty possible. Then we have here Caldwell. Gonna throw him as a maybe in there as well as some sort of guest cast. I don't want to say unlikely. The only reason I don't say unlikely is because of his pedigree as a sci-fi actor. I just feel like he's potential to join in and fulfill a guest star role of some sort. Is this Cassie? Is this Cassandra? I think it is. Honestly, I don't think they would get her actual original actress back. Possibly they will. I'm going to say maybe for her, just because having an adult version of Cassandra, they could recast her however they want to with a new actress, bring back the old actress, whatever. That would make sense for this aged up version, especially some of the early seasons of SG-1 when they went to the future, 1969, I think it was. She was working in the Stargate program, waiting for them to come back. I think that would be an easy choice to have an aged up Cassandra working in whatever is going on as some sort of character. They could write her a whole new personality and a whole new backstory of things that have happened since the old show went off the air, but she could be a tie to the old stuff while still basically creating a new character for the new show. Then we have Kowalski here. Unlikely. I might even want to put him in high unlikely, low maybe, because just the prevalence of him returning in all sorts of alternate timelines and alternate universes. If they get to that point in this series where they're starting to deal with alternate timelines, alternate outcomes, I absolutely think that he would be brought back in some capacity as like basically a cameo, but that would have to be letting the show go on for quite a while. Chekhov here. Unlikely. I should say no chance because of what happened to the fate of his character, but this is a science fiction show like we've already discussed multiple times already. Alternate universes, time travel, whatever. Not counting him out of the realm of possibility. Then we have Cronus. I'm going to say no chance because why? Why would he even have any need to be here whatsoever? Daniel Jackson, almost certain. The same thing I'll talk about when we get to another character. I think he's almost going to be a 100% certainty here, especially if you look at all of the Stargate spin-offs to this point. You have Daniel Jackson, you have, I almost said Richard Dean Anderson. I guess you have Richard Dean Anderson, and you have Michael Shanks playing the roles of Daniel and O'Neill, respectively, as a cameo, as an actual character, whatever, in the pilot episodes of the new series. I think we're probably going to see something similar to that here. even if they don't go on to be normal cast members throughout the show, I think absolutely we're going to see some more of those tapes of Daniel introducing people to the world of Stargate. We're going to see some sort of video recordings, something. He's almost a definite. Then we have Davis here. I was going to say Major Davis. Who knows what his rank's actually going to be? The same goes for all of the actual military people. I'm going to say maybe. Just because of the sheer amount of times he popped in and out and actually had stuff to do with the show without being a main cast member, I think it's possible if we're bringing in elements of the old military, the old guard, because I don't necessarily think this is going to be run by the Air Force anymore. He would be a good person to be some sort of bridging the gap without really having to delve into bringing back the true core cast members. Then we have the Dosai from the Ori. Again, no need for him story-wise, and the actor has passed away. I don't think there's any chance we get him back whatsoever. Dr. Lee, I almost want to, you know what? I almost want to say highly possible. Just because his sheer tenacity of sticking around and being a background player and then becoming a real component in the later seasons, I think he's the type of person that would still be kicking around. Probably wouldn't have him as a main role in the new show, but he's definitely the type of person who would still be in this series, in this world, doing stuff. Would love to see him. I'm going to say Don S. Davis as General Hammond. No chance, with an asterisk. Absolutely 100%. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say almost certain, no chance. He's not going to appear in the show. Maybe there'll be stock footage to, like a montage of things that have happened in the past or whatever, but he will not be reprising the role. The actor has died. He had stepped away in the actual universe of the show anyways, but there will absolutely be references to him, things named after him, the Hammond Center or something. We already had the ship named after him. He will be referenced quite a bit in the show. I have no doubt on that. Then we have Lorne. Probably around the same type of Davis here. He's a maybe. He's sort of that next step down of people that wasn't ever a main cast member, but he kicked around a lot. He had appearances in SG-1 and Atlantis, and was he ever in a universe? Probably, actually. So if they're going to bring in the old guard and just kind of have them there in the background for some reasons, he would make sense. Felger. Oh boy. I want to say unlikely. Very unlikely. He was kind of, sort of, just probably, I don't want to say stunt casting, but he was brought in to play a specific role, and then they brought him back because it did so well. I don't really see them needing this character or having a reason to bring him back for the new show, but I'm not going to say never because they could, and there could be a possibility or potential for him. Then we have Fifth. I'm going to say no chance. No need for him, no reason for him, and based on what happens in the universe, I don't think it makes sense anyways. Ford, I want to say Ford's even on the high end of maybe. And it all depends on what they want to tell with the story of Atlantis. He's a lingering plot thread. He is a character they never truly wrapped up his storyline, and it would just be nice to get closure on that. It's not the new show's job to give us closure for things. It's trying to do its own story. But I feel like he is a loose plot thread that could be tied up, or he could just be back in the universe and walk through for an episode, and we just know he had a good ending. We also have Haley here. I want to put her... I'm going to have to go maybe. I would like to put her in highly possible, because along with Cassandra, I feel like these people, and somebody else that's not on the list, the Jack O'Neill clone, I feel like these younger characters who have now grown up in the universe would make a lot of sense to be new focal points with little bits of ties back to the original series. So you could write them their new character because they don't really have a ton of baggage, but they would still have that linkage to the past of the show and really feel like the next generation, I suppose you could say. What's the character he's playing here? Because he played about 73. Halling, something like that. I would normally say no chance, but because he's played 7,000 people in Stargate before, I feel like the actor will return, and he's actually going to be on this list again, I think. Maybe Todd's not in here, not sure. But I definitely feel like this is an actor they're going to want to bring back to Stargate in some capacity. If they go with the Atlantis route and actually give more explanation on that, he definitely feels like somebody who could just be there in the background for a couple of scenes and fulfill his destiny as reappearing. Come try a guy. What was his name? Harlan? No chance for him. Why would there be? There's no need for him. I was going to say one off. He's in 2 episodes, but why? He has no reason to be in the show. Now, I'm going to actually say highly possible for Hayes, President Hayes, is that his name? Not only because of the actor William Devane, is that his name? Bill Devane, William Devane. He's pretty high profile. He's doing those gold commercials. He's playing the president in the Dark Knight universe, so he obviously won't be the president again. But I have this whole idea in my head. They're going to have some sort of film footage or a documentary or something, some framing device at the start of this show to maybe get people caught up a little bit to the universe. Kind of similar to what they did in SGU to show Eli tapes about what was going on in the universe. I would not be at all surprised if there's at least a cameo segment recorded by the then President Hayes. Well, let me tell you about all this stuff that's going on in the Stargate program. I feel like he's a highly possible candidate for, again, not full-time status, just to appear in the show in some capacity for 5 minutes maybe. Is this Heimdall? I don't know why they put different Asgard on here. Oh, because this was a ranking. I'm going to say no chance. Why? Why would Heimdall be there? Asgard, I do think we may get. Heimdall, meh. Jack O'Neill, along with Michael Shanks, Richard Dean Anderson, and Daniel Jackson, I do think they're almost 100% certainty. I do not believe Richard Dean Anderson will be a main player in the show. I don't think he's going to be joining the cast, but I think ultimately, if they do anything with him, there'll at least be some sort of minor appearance, sort of like Zephram Cochrane appeared in the very first episode of Enterprise. Some speech by him, maybe if the Stargate was revealed to the world, or again, some taped footage of the press release or something. He will, without a doubt, make some sort of appearance in live action or in pre-recorded footage, without a doubt. That's almost 100%. Jacob Carter / Selmack. Again, I should say no chance. Actually, I haven't checked to see if the actor is even still with us, but based on what happened to him in the show, I would say no chance. But again, sci-fi show. Possibilities because of his attachment to other characters for him to appear in some capacity, alternate universe or something, are always there. Same thing for Janet Fraser. The only reason I feel like she might be a little bit more likely is if Cassandra is actually in the show in some capacity, a flashback scene perhaps to her mother, well, her adoptive mother, before her untimely demise, or again, some sort of stock footage or alternate reality, whatever. That's very possible. Who the heck is this? Is this Janie McKay? Is that McKay's sister? I would say no chance, but I think if McKay is in the show and McKay happens to be on Earth, and the fact that that's his real life sister, if they're going to bring one of them back, obviously Rodney McKay we haven't gotten to him yet, but I feel like she has a capability to come back because of him specifically. Jonas Quinn, my bias is going to put him in maybe. I don't think there's any real reason to bring him into the show. My bias wants to put him in almost certain and just have a Justice for Jonas show. The Jonas Journeys. But my bias is going to put him here right behind Ford. Well, we see him? Probably not. This is... Who the heck is that? Wait, I think oh, that's Katie Brown. No chance. Why would she be back? No chance. I'm also going to say... Ooh, Kavanaugh. I want to say no chance, but I feel like he would... I'm going to say unlikely, because I feel like he'd be the perfect person for them to just shove acerbically into the background scene, still hating whatever job he's doing, and they don't really need to address any of his backstory. He doesn't have much backstory, but I feel like he's the type of person that you could put in the show, give him a side role for an episode or two, hating his job, working in the background, toiling away for no kudos or anything. And us longtime fans would be like, oh, it's that guy. But they wouldn't have to explain all that much about who he is. Then we have Dr. Keller. I'm going to say maybe. Maybe? She higher than maybe? I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like she's not quite as high as Dr. Beckett, but probably around the same thing. If they're going to do any sort of medical stuff on the show, especially since we don't have Janet Fraser, I don't really see Alexa coming back. Dr. Lamb, I don't really think she's on the list, but I don't foresee her coming back. So if we're going to have an episode that has to do with medical stuff, I feel like these two could be brought in as the medical experts of days gone by to deal with that situation. Now, we have Kinsey, whatever the heck he is, Senator, President, Goa'uld. I'm going to say highly possible. The reason I feel that is he was left on a lingering plot thread. He was an Earth politician. Yes, he was disgraced. Last time we saw him, I believe he had escaped into space under the influence of a Goa'uld. Now, the way his voice sounded in an episode, it didn't necessarily sound like he was actually possessed by a Goa'uld, but they never explained that. So I'm going to assume he actually was. And why do I feel like it's highly possible he might be coming back? Well, I feel like if they want to explore some sort of modern political allegory, which is all the rage right now in TV, I do think he would be the backdoor way into that. A politician who escaped with an actual demon inside of him, who came back and weaseled his way back into politics or something to destabilize the Earth government, whatever. I do feel like they have the built-in capacity to use him for that type of storyline. Then we have, which version of him is this? It's not the one from SGU, is it? Varro? Is this Varro or is this Kirik? Either way, no chance. The actor might come back, but I don't see any reason for that character to come back. Similarly here, why would Emotep come back? This is Janai guy, Redeem, something like that. I'm going to say no chance there. Out of all of the Janai people, you could bring back Kalamini. Let's bring back Kalamini. And we have Laren, Traveler Girl. Unlikely, but that is somebody we may have some sort of alliance with. Again, not going to be somebody they bring back in earnest right out the bat, right out the gate, right off the bat. But a few seasons down the line, if we start tying in what happened to Atlantis, Morgan Le Fay. I'm going to say no chance. I don't know why. I'm going to say no chance. Out of any ascended being, no chance. Lucius, no chance. Now, Richard Karn, who was in the original movie as a different character, I could see him coming back, but there's, again, no real reason or need to bring in this comedic foil for any reason. Tok'ra guy. What was his name? I think I wrote it down. Alec? Is that his name? I'm going to say no chance for him. Now, Martin, sadly, the actor is no longer with us. 100% I would have said he was at least highly possible, but the actor isn't here anymore. I do believe there'll be references to him. I absolutely believe there'll be some sort of mentions of Wormhole Extreme or some other project he may have done after the fact, so I don't think he'll be forgotten about entirely, but we can't see him. There's no chance we'll be seeing him. I'm going to say no chance for, why can I not remember his name? Martouf. Again, the only reason we saw him at any point in the recent history is because of alternate universes, so I don't foresee him coming back. Mayborn. I want to put him in almost certain, but I'm going to say he's highly possible. I don't know what he would be up to these days. I always had it in my head it was a very big missed opportunity for him to not show up in season probably 10, maybe late season 9 as a prior, but he had some sort of a side thing going on, so he got taken over by the prior to use their powers to do some sort of side thing on his own, whatever. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I would just love to see him one more time. I don't know any story potential for why he would be in it, but Michael, I think he's also highly probable. Again, Don't know what story they would tell with it. There's a lot of time between where SGA ended and today, but I think in universe we're supposed to believe he's dead, but I'm going to say that with a caveat because in the plan for season 6 of Stargate Atlantis that was released maybe a year or so ago, all these dead characters were coming back, including someone else that's on our list later. So I think Ford was supposed to come back. I think Dr. Weir was supposed to come back. He was supposed to come back. So I feel like again, caveat here, if we are dealing with lost, dropped plot threads, things that haven't been finished because of the pedigree of the actor Connor Trinneer, I think it's more than likely if they get to that point in this new series, he would be coming back. Ham Mitchell, this is an interesting one. I'm going to say almost certain because he is the youngest one of the main cast from Stargate SG-1. And I feel like if they're going to have that carry on from the military branch, he's probably outside of Colonel O'Neill, General, probably retired O'Neill, and Sam Carter. Even though he doesn't necessarily have the star power of the main original cast, I think logistically he might be the most probable, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but let's go to Mr. Dolan Mayon. This is Nareem. I'm going to move from no chance to unlikely. We were led to believe they were wiped out, but I choose to believe the beta canon that he escaped and survived. I don't know. He escaped to some other world and we just never saw it on screen. So I'm going to go ahead and say unlikely, but it would be nice to see him. Neerti, nope. No reason for Neerti to come back. Oberon, A, no reason for Oberon to come back. B, the actor is no longer with us. What do we think about Oma? I'm going to say maybe for Oma. Now, I said no for Morgan Le Fay out of any of the ascended beings outside of Daniel Jackson, and then Daniel Jackson again, and then Daniel Jackson a third time. She probably has the most reason to return to the series. I don't know. Is the actress still alive? I believe she is. If we're going to tie in any of the Ascension stuff, which we probably have to do at some point, she would make the most sense. And if we are going to deal with the Destiny stuff and the Ancients sending out that ship, she would probably be a good point of reference for whatever the heck that was, too. So, don't think it's likely, but she does make sense to return. Then we've got Osiris or Sarah. Is that her name, Sarah? I'm going to say no chance. Pete. That's very interesting. I'm going to say unlikely. I don't really feel like he should return, but because he was part of the DeLuises, they might come back to work on the show. I haven't heard any confirmation on that, so I don't know if they're going to have any part in it. And because of his grounded Earth-based stuff and his link to Amanda tapping Sam Carter, I don't think there's a reason for him to, but I do think it's a little higher than no chance whatsoever. I do think there is a slight chance to see him, but not married to Sam or anything like that. Let's be clear about that. I do not want that. Ragnar, I don't feel like he's highly likely, but if they're going to bring in any sort of what's going on with the Jaffa, I feel like outside of Braytak and outside of the main man himself, Teal'c, over here, I feel like he might be a high probability if they're going to do a lot of Jaffa storytelling. Rodney McKay, almost certain. Outside of the main SG-1 cast, I think he probably has the highest probability of returning from any of the Atlantis cast, at least. He started on SG-1. He was not the main character of Atlantis. I suppose that was John Shepard, but I think McKay has a higher chance of appearing even than Shepard. Not to say Shepard has no chance, but come on. I mean, it's McKay. He's, by and large, everybody's favorite character from that show, or one of. Ronan. I'm going to say maybe. Obviously, Jason Momoa is intrinsically linked to things much, much more higher profile these days than Atlantis or Stargate in general, but He has made reference to the fact that he would return, he would like to return, and if they're going to tie up the Atlantis storyline, he's probably the one that has the least linkage to Atlantis. I mean, he was a runner saved from the Wraith. He was just kind of hanging out with them as a found family, but he wasn't really linked to needing to be on Atlantis. He's somebody they could write off if they were to go back to Atlantis and say he found some more Cetidans and went to live a life with them, or he's just off doing his own thing, nobody's hurt, whatever. But he also has the capacity to come back in a small role, or even as like a guest star in one episode. I don't think it's unlikely, but I feel like circumstances dictate he won't be returning. Now, Ryak, I don't want to say he's highly possible. Well, you know what? I might actually say highly possible. I'm going to say highly possible. Even if they don't get the original actor, if we're dealing with the Jaffa and Teal'c and his son being Ryak, I feel like it's very highly possible that we will see Ryak, even if it's not the original actor. He'll be leading the Jaffa nation, or I just feel like if we're going to bring back the Jaffa, if we're going to bring back Teal'c, his son is 100% going to need to be referenced, unless we're going to do the Picard season 3 thing and just have Worf completely forget about Alexander's existence, which, because they're both relatively bad fathers, even though Teal'c's better, I would say that's possible. But yeah. Sam Carter. I mean, come on. I'm going to move her over here. Actually, you know what? Sam Carter, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to appear in the first episode. I feel like, just on the past track record, these two probably will have an appearance in the first episode. I don't know about Sam Carter, but come on. She's going to be coming back. Whether or not she directs and appears on the show, there's no chance Amanda Tapping is not stepping back into the Stargate realm for some point in time. For an episode, maybe. She might be, in my opinion, one of the cast members that comes back on a more full-time basis. Whereas Richard Dean Anderson might be in an episode, might stop by a couple of times. I think Daniel Jackson, I don't know. Maybe Daniel and Sam might be there more full-time. I feel like Rodney McKay would want to be there full-time, but it depends on the story they're telling. If we're going to have a setting of some sort of new Stargate command or something, she makes sense to be in charge of it, or at least heading up something to do with it. Sha're, no chance. Will she be referenced? Will we see a picture of her when Daniel's doing something? Probably. But I don't feel like she's going to be anything in the show itself. Joe Flanagan as Shepard. Yeah, almost certain. He is so much a fan of Stargate. He tried to buy the rights to Stargate Atlantis to keep making it himself. So, I mean, it's very, very unlikely we won't see him at all. And come on. I mean, him and Rodney, definite, almost 100% returning characters. They're both humans from Earth. So even if the Atlantis expedition is over and they're just back working on Earth now, they're still in the Earth military. Well, he's in the Earth military. Rodney's just a consultant or whatever. But it would still make sense for them to be involved, even if they're not off-world on Atlantis. So definitely makes sense. Now, Siler here, I'm going to say maybe. And the only reason he's maybe is if he still works on the show. If he is still doing stunts and whatever behind the scenes, he will absolutely make an appearance. If he is not working on the show at all anymore, I think that moves down to no chance. I don't think they're going to invite him along just to have a guest spot role if he's not working on the show behind the scenes. Frank. No, Reynolds. Is it Frank Reynolds? I don't remember his first name. No chance. I don't think John Delancey's coming back. Even if he does, this character has no reason to be in the show. Unless there's some sort of, again, some behind the scenes stuff about here's what happened on the 27,000 hours of Stargate you missed, and here's an episode, or here's a guy that was in 4 episodes. Skara. Unlikely. The only reason I say not no is he's the only actor outside of Kasuf who actually was in the movies, the original movie, and was not recast for the same role in the series. Now, he has not been in the show since he ascended, but he did have that little scene at the end. I don't think I'll see you for a while, whatever. I would feel like maybe there will be some sort of, interestingly enough, the episode he last appeared in was full circle, but I do feel like there might be a full circle moment by bringing him back for, even if he just comes down as his Ascend itself to like talk to Jack one last time or something. Again, might be too fan servicey and might have too much baggage for the old stuff, so it depends how far they actually go into the new series. Teal'c, I'm going to say pretty probable, almost certain, that he's going to be coming back. I don't think, again, he's going to be full-time, but if they're going to tell the Jaffa story, I definitely think he's at least going to be in a couple of episodes, if not more than a cameo. I don't think there's any chance we're not seeing Christopher Judge. Taylor. I'm going to move her down to... Do I want to put her down with maybe? It depends. It really depends. It depends on what they want to do with the Atlantis stuff. If we actually go back to Atlantis, I think she might go up from maybe to highly possible. But if we've just kind of wrapped up Atlantis off screen and the Earth-based characters from Atlantis are back on Earth doing stuff, I think she wouldn't be there. Similar to Ronan, I feel like she might be off doing her own thing and referenced, but we'll have to see what they want to do with playing with the Atlantis lore. Thor. Now, Thor. Based on what happens at the end of Stargate SG-1, probably not, but I do feel like they might just get around that and say they solved things off screen and the Asgard are just fine now. Thor's in his 37th body and we're all good. Maybe it's because I just want to see Thor back. Todd the Wraith. If we're going to bring back any Wraith, probably Michael. But if we're going to bring back any true Wraith, it's going to be Todd. And this is the same guy that played Todd. So if he comes back for one role, Atlantis related, he'll probably come back for both. Or actually, yeah, if they are back on Earth, he might be the one Wraith I would see actually still being on Earth. Oh God, what's his name? He's Vala's husband. Toman. Not the Tomed incident, he's Toman. He is... crap. I'm going to say unlikely, but it depends on how prominent Vala is. So I'm going to skip right to Vala and say may. Do I want to say maybe? Honestly, crap. She's only going to get a maybe from me. Damn. Yeah, I'm probably being too harsh on her here. I would like to see her back, but she was only a true official cast member in the intro for season 10. And I could very much foresee, if they don't get Claudia Black back, that she just went off and did her own thing after they wrapped up the whole Ori storyline. Maybe she and Tomin went off and Tomin went off with some sort of to reclaim all of the Ori followers or something. I don't know. Ergo, no chance. A, why would he? B, the actor Dom DeLuise is no longer with us. Gary Jones, Walter Harriman, almost certain he's got to be in the show. If he's not, I riot. He probably doesn't deserve to be quite that high, but I mean, yes. I'm putting him as my A1 tier, S1, whatever that is. Dr. Elizabeth Weir, maybe. High maybe. Based on her status in the show, probably not, but like I said, the plans for season 6 were for her to make a return in the Higginson body, so I'm going to say maybe, and it would just be great to actually get a little bit of closure on her because it felt like the way she left the show was not ideal. Woolsey, I'm going to say almost certain. I was going to start off saying highly possible, but I feel like Woolsey is probably almost certain, especially with his long overdue return. Well, not long overdue. He was in Prodigy, but he's coming back to Starfleet Atlantis. That's not right. Starfleet Academy. So it just makes a lot of sense for Woolsey to be involved. The IOA connection, he led all of the reasons. Woolsey makes a lot of sense. Plus, it's Robert Picardo, and he's pretty high pedigree. No, no chance for you. Zelenka, highly probable, highly possible. I don't think he's quite almost certain, but I feel like he's approaching that level. Whoops. I feel like he might even be higher than Okay, now here's the ones I added. So all of these are intrinsically tied to, intrinsic is a word I like in this video, to what they decide to do with Destiny and Stargate Universe. I have a feeling they might just say, They might just say the ship's still out there and they haven't had any contact with anyone, and let it be, and let that be resolved at some point in the future, maybe if it ever is. But if they choose to have it resolved or not even mention it and just have some of the characters walk by, I picked a few of the ones I feel like might show up. Now, Eli, okay, again, take this with a grain of salt. If Universe is resolved in this show, I'm going to say Eli is highly possible. Or should I do maybe? Yeah, I would say Eli is highly possible because story-wise, if they're wrapping up Universe, he would make the most sense as the point person. I'm going to say similarly, highly possible for Rush. Now we get down to Telford as a maybe, Colonel Young as a maybe, and Camille as a maybe. But again, so these are the ones I feel like had the most merit for bringing back. There's a lot of other Universe characters that these are the ones that make the most sense. Obviously, we have Eli because of his status as the last survivor on the ship trying to figure it out. Dr. Rush because, I mean, he's just the scientist genius of the show. Having him have to work with McKay, Carter, and Zelenka would just make for a fantastic episode if all of them get stuck on they get stuck in a room together on a problem. I mean, that's just an episode I want to see. Let's stick them all in a room and see what happens. You can put Dr. Lee in there too to make some things break. I don't know. Then you have Telford just because I feel like he's kind of that the military guy that has some connections. The same with Young, although I kind of feel like Telford might be more likely to reappear than Young. I don't know. I don't know. And then Camille, just because of her go-between sort of IOA, what was she? The HR person. I just feel like that might fit into the world they're trying to tell. Plus, you got Ming-Na Wen, so any excuse to get her back. That's kind of the same reason I put Telford in here, because Lou Diamond Phillips, I mean, when are you not throwing him in a show if you can? And my dark horse, I just threw in Stargate Infinity because two reasons. One, it's the child of Stargate nobody ever remembers. It's not good. It does have a couple of things I do would like. It has the format, which I'm kind of wondering if they might take the format of. They're not going to a planet and back to home base each episode. They're on the run. So they're going from like planet to planet. They're just planet hopping through the gate. They also drive vehicles through the gate, which I think is kind of cool. The other reason I'm putting this here is strictly non-canon, and it wasn't made by the same people, but this was set about 30 years after the Abydos mission, which kind of sort of puts it into the realm of where this new show is going to be taking place. I feel like it might be maybe. I'm going to put it in maybe, because I don't think they're actually going to port one-to-one characters, but they might name somebody after a character in Stargate Infinity, just as a little wink and a nod to that canon being set in around the same time period. Or they might even decide to repurpose some of the ideas from here, or bring in the weird android dude. I don't know. I just think it would be kind of just a little bit lacking if I didn't throw it on my list for the sheer fact that it exists and it's in the right time period, and they might take something from it. All right, so let's sit down here and go through and look at our almost certains. Do I feel like, well, I'm going to reorder this. So I'm going to say, again, Gary Jones, my dark horse pick for absolutely has to appear. O'Neill, definitely, but I feel like it's going to be more of a glorified cameo like Zephram Cochrane in Enterprise in the first episode. Depending on how it goes after that, he may reappear. Daniel Jackson, similar thing. He has to appear in the pilot based on the prior Stargate series. And I think he would actually appear more often in the show, but not as a main character. Sam Carter, similar. I think she might actually appear more as being the new head of homeworld operations or something, whatever you want to say. I'm going to actually say she and Woolsey might have similar roles there. McKay, I feel like he's probably even more, well, he's definitely the most likely after the SG-1 people. I'm going to say he's even more likely than Teal'c. I'm going to say Teal'c's probably more likely than Mitchell, and then I think I'm good with this ranking, although, again, almost certain, so I would actually be surprised if we don't see any of these people. I don't know about Gary Jones' health, but I definitely feel like even though he never got an episode to himself, really, outside of maybe when he was being radar to, Landry wasn't on here. When he was being, radar to Landry, that was probably his biggest rollout. Maybe in the alternate future episode of 2010. Was it 2010? He had a little bit of a role, but he's just so intrinsically linked, again, that word, to Stargate that I would feel weird if he wasn't there at all. We've got Braytak, Dr. Lee. I'm going to say, let me reorder this. I think Zelenka, yeah. I think Kinsey's more. Actually, I'm going to put Eli ahead of Michael. I'm going to put Rush. Yeah, I like that. These guys don't deserve to be up. Let's see. Who deserves to be higher on the maybe list? Paul McGillian, definitely. I'm going to go ahead and throw a bone and say, well, it's not. This is going to be a tough one. It depends, I suppose, what they decide to do. I'm going to say these guys. Cassie more so. I don't know if what this actress is still doing these, but I suppose they could recast. It just would make sense logistically to bring in some of that. I'm going to say she probably has more. Keller maybe more than Atlantis. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move Anubis down. This is a hard one to order. Obviously, Infinity shouldn't even really be there. I'm going to say he's higher than Mitch Pileggi. Jonas probably shouldn't be that high. I want Jonas to be almost. I'll put him down here because, again, it really depends on if he's working behind the scenes. She should come down more. I think it's more her star power in relation to her mom. I'll put her with Vala. If Vala comes back, I think she might come. Oma, Thor. He's kind of in a gray area. I feel like I did this completely wrong, but why not? Does anyone here not fit the unlikely category? I'm going to say, even though it doesn't make sense logistically, she should be first on unlikely. Skara should be second on unlikely. I'm good with Anubis as 3. I feel like they're going to have a desire to put Apophis in it. So I'm going to move him up a little. And back. He's probably less than Pete. Him down. Kowalski again really shouldn't be there, but wow, am I going to put Kavanaugh ahead of some big name people? You know what? I'm mostly okay with this, I guess. Actually, she probably has a better chance. Just, he shouldn't be last. Dead. And we never saw his body. We never really had a funeral or anything. So I guess questionably he survived in some capacity. I don't know. All right, then we have no chance. Is there anyone? I'm gonna say Ball and Martin get moved to the head of no chance, and Hammond. They get moved to the head of no chance just because Hammond even more so. I'm pretty sure all 3 of them are getting referenced. Martin probably even more than Ball. But anyone else here even get a chance of a reference? Oh, geez. I mean, I feel like you could get referenced. Martouf could get referenced. Doubt it. I guess she could get referenced as far as, man, Danny, you lose a lot of people you used to love. Yeah, I don't know. It's not really that. I'm just gonna say these three right here. I'm almost positive will get something mentioned in the show. But yeah, I guess this is my. Did I miss anything? Nope. This is my possibility ranking of who might appear in the new Stargate series. Probably spent way too much time on it, and it's boring AF. But if you stuck with it this long, what do you think of my rankings? Is there anyone we missed on here? I know I mentioned Landry and Dr. Lamb. I'm gonna say Landry's a maybe. Actually, I'm gonna say Landry's probably a highly possible. I don't have a picture of him because he wasn't in here. Dr. Lamb, I'm gonna put her in a maybe, and the only reason I feel like she might come back to the show at all is because she's married to Michael Shanks. If he comes back to the show for any significant amount of time, I feel like she might come back, especially if they have a crisis of medical stuff and they get the greatest doctors together. Why not get Dr. Lamb in there with Keller and where's Paul McGillion? Why can I not remember his name? Paul McGillion here, yeah. Dr. Oh my God. Beckett Mariner. That's not right. That's Star Trek, but it's, yeah, Dr. Beckett. Anyways, I'm waffling. Let me see how long this thing's been recording for. Good Lord. Good Lord. Holy cow. Nobody's watching this far. But anyways, that's my video. What do you think of it? Would you re-rank any of these people? Let me know what you think down below. Like, share, subscribe, hype, join, do all those YouTube things. But until next time, dial it home, Walter.